around for over 400 million years. Sharks have no tongues. Their taste buds are actually in their teeth. Sharks have different types of teeth. Mako sharks have very pointed teeth. White sharks have triangular, serrated teeth. A sandbar shark will have around 35,000 teeth over the course of its lifetime. The tiny cookie cutter shark, rarely seen by human eyes, has big lips and a belly that glows a pale blue-green color to help camouflage it from prey. Its name comes from the small cookie-shaped bite mark it leaves. Sharks have no bones. Their skeletons are made of cartilage. Hammerhead sharks have 360-degree vision. Greater hammerheads are known to group in large schools of 100 or more off the island of Cacos near Mexico. Shark skin feels like sandpaper because it's covered in tiny pointed structures called placoid scales. Sharks are known for their sixth sense. They can sense electromagnetic fields of other creatures and objects and temperature shifts thanks to special sensors called the ampullae of Lorenzini. A shark can be put into a catatonic state called tonic immobility when it's flipped onto its back or when the ampullae of Lorenzini are appropriately stimulated. Several types of sharks have demonstrated an affinity for being touched or for being put into a state of tonic immobility. Humans are much more dangerous to sharks than sharks are to humans. People kill as many as 100 million sharks every year, often when the sharks are accidentally caught in fishing nets. Many other sharks are caught only for their fins, which are used in shark fin soup. Tiger sharks are often called the garbage cans of the sea because they will eat nearly anything. Contents of their stomachs have revealed tires, baseballs, and license plates. Short fin makos are the fastest sharks. They have been clocked at 36 miles per hour and have been estimated to swim up to 60 miles per hour. They need this extreme speed to chase down their favorite food, the lightning-fast yellowfin tuna. Scientists have identified more than 400 species of sharks. Approximately 30 of those species are considered dangerous to humans. Bull sharks, one of the most dangerous, aggressive suggests that microbial life forms occupy the bottom of the Mariana Trench, and scientists believe there are many new species awaiting discovery. It's probably so much down there. We probably know more about outer space than we do about the Mariana Trench. Okay, next is going to be facts about the Incan Empire and Machu Picchu. Starting with facts about the Inca. The Inca civilization in South America started out as a highland tribe in present-day Peru. The term Inca means ruler or lord in Quechua, the language of the Incas. In the 12th century, Cusco was established as a city-state and later the capital of the Inca Empire. The founder of the Inca civilization and its first ruler was named Manco Capac. The civilization remained a relatively small tribe until the Inca began their conquests in the early 15th century under Emperor Pachacuti. I probably pronounced that wrong. Within 100 years, the Inca Empire had expanded from modern-day Peru into parts of what are now Ecuador, Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. At its height, the Inca Empire included an Andean population of about 12 million people. The Inca Empire was ruled by the ancestors of the original Inca people who established the city of Cusco. At the top of Inca society was the emperor called the Sapa Inca. The Inca worshipped many different gods, but their main deity was the sun god Inti. The Inca were skilled at trepanation, the practice of cutting or drilling a hole in the skull. A study found that the odds of surviving trepanation were far better in the ancient Inca Empire than during the American Civil War. The Inca developed a way of recording age of the Inca. It refers to the lower of the two peaks that stand on each side of the city. Today, Machu Picchu is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There are around 140 buildings in the city, built with stones fitted together tightly without the use of mortar. Like most of the Inca Empire, Machu Picchu was built without the use of the wheel, draft animals, knowledge of iron or steel, or even a system of writing. One of the sacred structures found in Machu Picchu is the Intihuatana. The Inca believed this stone structure helped to hold the sun in place and keep it on its correct path. Machu Picchu is located about 50 miles from Cusco, the capital city of the Inca Empire. The Inca built a stone road from Cusco to Machu Picchu. Many people still hike this trail today on their way to see Machu Picchu. Alright. We are moving on to sports, and we are going to do some wacky sports injuries, which I thought sounded kind of fun. Number 1 is Red Sox pitcher Clarence Climax Blethen wore false teeth, but he believed he looked more intimidating without them. During a 1923 game, he had the teeth in his back pocket when he slid into second base. His teeth bit his backside. Number 2. In 2004, baseball player Ryan Klesko was in the middle of pre-game stretches when he jumped up for the singing of the national anthem and pulled an oblique/ribcage muscle, which sidelined him for more than a week. Number 3. In 1927, New York Giants pitcher Fat Freddie Fitzsimmons was napping in a rocking chair when his pitching hand got caught underneath the chair and was crushed by his substantial girth. He missed 3 weeks. Number 4. After assisting on a goal in a 2004 match, newlywed soccer player Paulo Diogo celebrated by jumping up on a perimeter fence, accidentally catching his wedding ring on the wire. When he jumped down, he tore off his finger. Number 5. During a 2006 playoff game, ice hockey player Jaromir Jagr threw a punch at an opposing player. He missed, his fist slicing through the air so hard that he dislocated his shoulder. Number 6. During a publicity stunt for the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2003, a tree stump and axe were placed in the locker room to remind players to keep chopping wood or give it their all. Punter Chris Hansen took a swing and missed the stump, sinking the axe into his non-kicking foot. Number 7. Rookie shortstop Clint Barnes was sidelined from the Colorado Rockies lineup for nearly 3 months in 2005 after he broke his collarbone when he fell carrying a slab of deer meat. Classic. of, games. Okay. Monopoly was first published in 1935. An earlier version, the Landlord's Game, dates back to 1903 and was created by Elizabeth Lizzie Magie. Magie was a progressive feminist who followed the writings of economist Henry George, who believed in a land value tax. The game was devised to illustrate the dangers of monopolies. The Landlord's Game was patented in January 1904. The patent expired in 1921. At the time, the game had only been self-published. Magie patented a revised version of the game in 1924, and in 1932 this version was published by Ad Game Company. When Parker Brothers published a modified version of the game in 1935, it was credited to Charles Darrow, who received a patent for it. The company eventually bought the rights to Magie's patent as well in order to establish clear ownership. The game today is published by Hasbro. During World War II, the British Secret Service sent information and maps to prisoners of war smuggled in Monopoly sets. The rich character seen on the set is known as Mr. Monopoly and Rich Uncle Pennybags. The street names in the United States version derive from real locations in Atlantic City, New Jersey. There is no Marvin Gardens in Atlantic City, but there is a Marvin Gardens neighborhood. The value of a property reflects the real estate prices in the Atlantic City neighborhoods when the game was developed. Due to segregation, the cheaper places were streets in African American neighborhoods, while Park Place and Ventnor Avenue were situated in wealthy, all-white neighborhoods. The British version of the game contains locations in London. The four railroads are represented by King's Cross Station, Marylebone Station, Fenchurch Street Station, and Liverpool Street Station. The dark blue squares representing the most expensive properties are Park Lane and Mayfair, the equivalent of the U.S. Park Lane and Boardwalk. More money is now included in the Monopoly set. Older standard sets included a total of $15,140, but newer sets provide $20,580. If you have the UK version, does it come with pounds? Or is it dollars? That's my question for today. The tokens have changed over time in both shape and material. During World War II, for example, wood tokens were used due to a shortage of metal. In the late 1930s and early 1940s, tokens included a rocking horse, a purse, and a lantern. For a long stretch between the end of World War II and 1998, the 10 standard tokens were battleship, boot, cannon, horse and rider, iron, race car, Scotty dog, thimble, top hat, and wheelbarrow. I was always the thimble. In 1998, a contest was begun to introduce a new token, which ended up science has never made more sense. Septicemic plague is when the bacteria gets into your bloodstream. Septicemic plague can cause gangrene due to tissue death in extremities, like fingers and toes, turning them black. The gangrene and the black buboes and lesions all contributed to the term Black Death. The Black Death infected the lymphatic system, resulting in high fever, vomiting, enlarged glands, and in the case of pneumonic plague, coughing up bloody phlegm. Bubonic plague was fatal in 30 to 75% of cases. Pneumonic plague was fatal in 75% of cases, and septicemic plague was always fatal. Between 1347 and 1350, the plague spread across Europe, Asia, and northern Africa. The disease may have killed as many as 200 million people overall. Improvements in sanitation helped bring the Black Death to an end, but the plague still pops up now and then in isolated outbreaks. In India, between August and October 1994, 693 people contracted the plague, and 56 of them died. Contemporary English language chronicles called it the plague or the Great Pestilence. The phrase Black Death was applied later. The plague was reported first in 1347 in Crimea. Genoese traders then spread it to Italy, where it spread to France, Spain, Portugal, and England, and from there to Scandinavia. Ships from Constantinople brought the disease to Egypt, and from there to the Middle East and other parts of North Africa. In Cairo, somewhere between 30 and 40% of the population died. People were buried in mass graves. The death rate among clergy was higher than that in the general population, since they often cared for others. Rural and more isolated areas did not have as many victims. Between the 16th and 19th centuries, a little ice age took place. Some scientists attribute the global cooling period, at least in part, to the Black Death, as humans left areas with sparse populations, forests returned. In many areas, Christians blamed and massacred Jewish communities. Hundreds of Jewish communities were destroyed. Wasn't there like a nature rebirth during COVID too? Like, I don't know, because people weren't like going outside and being in cities and everything. I'm not sure. Okay, we are also going to do facts about some fun body terms, like what things are called. So that should be a little more fun than, Black Death. Okay. Pedactylism refers to cases where people have extra fingers or toes. Deglutition is the act of swallowing. If you're undergoing reverse peristalsis, watch out. It occurs when the contractions push the food back up instead of down when you're about to vomit. Cerumen is the medical term for earwax. The front of your elbow is called the antecubitus. The back, the bony end to your elbow, is called the olecranon. Sphenopalatine ganglioneuralgia is the scientific name for brain freeze, the headache you sometimes get when you eat something cold. You guys should let me know if you want to see a whole video about like medical terms and like the names for things, because I learned so much of that in my everyday genetics, like the words for when your eyes are too far apart, or like everything that you could think of. Yeah, let me know if you want to see some sort of video about that. Next is facts about being an astronaut, in case you ever wanted to know. Skylab astronauts grew 1.5 to 2.25 inches due to spinal lengthening and straightening as a result of zero gravity. Because of the lack of laundry facilities, astronauts on missions change their socks, shirts, and underwear just every 2 days. They only change their pants once a week. It's sponge bath only for space crews. Water droplets could escape and float out, posing a danger to expensive electronics. To be safe, the astronauts step in a cylindrical stall where they have about a 1-gallon ration of water to use. The dirty water is sucked up by a vacuum and stored in a special trash tank. Water isn't part of the toothbrushing regime at all. NASA developed a unique kind of toothpaste that astronauts swish around without the need for liquid. Contrary to common perception, most garbage is sealed in bags to be brought back to Earth for disposal. It isn't just tossed into orbit. As for the other, shall we say, waste produced on board, astronauts use toilets similar to those back home. Their facilities, though, have no water. Instead, the space toilet uses a constant vacuum-like airflow in the bowl to keep things from floating back up in the zero gravity. Crew members also have to strap in their feet and thighs to keep themselves from floating away mid-act. To sleep, astronauts zip themselves into specially designed sleeping bags that attach to their lockers. As early as 581 BC, Aristotle wrote of seeing mimes perform. From religious Greek festivals, mime made its way to the stage. Actors performed pantomimic scenes as overtures to the tragedies that depicted the moral lesson of the play to follow. Greek settlers brought mime to Italy, where it flourished during the Roman Empire and spread throughout Europe as the empire expanded. The ancient Romans distinguished between the pantomime and mime. Pantomimes were tragic actors who performed in complete silence, while mimes were comedic and often used speech in their acts. The Roman Empire brought pantomime and mime to England around 52 BC, but with the fall of the empire in the 5th century and the progress of Christianity, both were banished as forms of paganism. The first silent mime appeared on the English stage in 1702 in John Weaver's Tavern Bilkers at the Drury Lane Theatre. It was really more of a silent ballet than silent acting. British actor John Rich is credited with adapting pantomime as an acting style for the English stage in 1717. His Italian mimic scenes combined elements of both commedia dell'arte and John Weaver's ballet. Meanwhile, mime flourished as a silent art in 18th century France, when Napoleon forbade the use of dialogue in stage performance for fear something slanderous might be said. The classic white-faced, black-dressed mime was introduced and popularized in the 19th century French circus by Jean-Gaspard de Bourreau, who was deemed too clumsy to participate in his family's aerial and acrobatics act. Mime started to fade in popularity at the beginning of the 1900s, but was revitalized with the birth of silent films. Stars such as Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton relied on elements of pantomime. In the 1920s, French performer Etienne Decroux declared mime an independent art form, different from the circus form introduced by de Bourreau, and launched the era of modern pantomime. In 1952, French-trained American mime Paul Curtis founded the American Mime Theater in New York. In 1957, Etienne Decroux traveled to New York to teach a workshop at the Actors Studio, which inspired him to open a mime school in the city. The San Francisco Mime Troupe was one of the most powerful political theaters in the U.S. and began as a silent mime company in 1959. It was founded by Ronnie Davis, who had previously performed with the American Mime Theater. I'm getting a little bored of mime facts. I think I'm gonna move on to the last category because I'm sorry, I'm a little bit bored. I'm going to do the presidential peculiarities. I know some people might not like it because it's America-based, but it's like funny, weird facts about presidents, which should be fun for anyone. I don't know. President William Taft had a new bathtub installed in the White House that could hold 4 grown men. Taft's 300-pound frame wouldn't 15 children from 2 marriages, President John Tyler was the most prolific chief executive. Martin Van Buren was characterized as a dandy and was known to have a weakness for rich foods, fine wine, and clothing. The only president never to have won a national election was Gerald Ford, who took office after President Richard Nixon resigned. William Henry Harrison was the first president to die in office. During his lengthy inaugural speech, more than 2 hours long, he contracted a cold that quickly developed into pneumonia. President Jimmy Carter could speed read 2,000 words per minute. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was related to 11 other presidents, either directly or through marriage. There hasn't been a bearded president since Benjamin Harrison, who left office in 1893. James Madison was the smallest president, weighing only 100 pounds and standing just 5'4". Wow. When George Washington was elected, America's first president had only 1 tooth. He wore dentures made from hippopotamus and elephant ivory, not wood as commonly thought. Edwin Booth, the brother of Abraham Lincoln's assassin John Wilkes Booth, once saved the life of President Lincoln's son, Robert. He kept the boy from falling off a train platform. After a long feud between Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, the 2 former presidents finally called a truce and developed a friendship that lasted the rest of their lives. Both men died on July 4th, 1826, the 50th anniversary of the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. Abraham Lincoln was the only president to receive a patent. It was a device designed to lift boats over shoals. Andrew Johnson never received any formal schooling. He credited his wife with teaching him to read and write. Ronald Reagan was the only president to have worn a Nazi uniform. He donned it as an actor in the 1942 film Desperate Journey. Richard Nixon's mother wanted her son to become a Quaker missionary. Nixon's true desire was to be an FBI agent. He applied to the Bureau but wasn't accepted. Woodrow Wilson played golf for exercise, even in the winter. He had his golf balls painted red so he could see them in the snow. In his earlier days, Grover Cleveland served as a New York sheriff and carried out at least 2 hangings, refusing to delegate the unpleasant task to others. After being diagnosed with mouth cancer in 1893, Cleveland had a secret operation on a yacht to remove part of his upper jaw. He was later fitted with a rubber prosthesis to fill the hole. George Washington never shook hands with visitors, choosing to bow instead. 2 decades after leaving the White House, John Tyler joined the Confederacy and became the only president named a sworn enemy of the United States. During his presidency, Franklin Pierce allegedly ran over a woman with his horse. He was arrested, but the case was dropped due to a lack of evidence. Warren G. Harding suffered his first nervous breakdown few years later, they were informed that no divorce had ever been sought, and the couple was being charged with adultery. Though it was after his term in office, Theodore Roosevelt was the first president to ride in an airplane. In 1910, he flew for 3 minutes and 20 seconds in a plane built by the Wright brothers. The pilot of that flight, Arch Hoxsey, crashed and died 2 months later. James Polk was the first president ever to have his photograph taken. In 1910, William Taft was the first president to throw the first baseball of a season and the first president to own a car while in office. In 1930, Taft's funeral was also the first presidential funeral to be broadcast on the radio. Harry Truman suffered from bad eyesight, which kept him from attending West Point. When World War I broke out, he passed his vision test by secretly memorizing the eye chart. That's funny. At age 19, George H.W. Bush became the youngest pilot in the U.S. Navy's history. He went on to fly 58 combat missions during World War II and was shot down in 1944. Early in his presidency, Bill Clinton suffered from a series of allergies, including cat dander, beef, milk, mold spores, and weed, and grass pollens. He took injections to control the allergies, which allowed him to partake in a favorite food at the time, cheeseburgers. George W. Bush had some of the highest and lowest approval ratings ever recorded for a president. In October 2001, he held an 88% positive rating, the highest in the Harris Poll's 40-year history. However, he also had one of the lowest positive ratings, 28%, in April 2007. Only Jimmy Carter and Richard Nixon ever scored lower. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was an avid poker player. During one of his fireside chats, he absent-mindedly shuffled some poker chips, rendering portions of his speech inaudible. Alright. I think that brings us to the end of the facts for today. My throat hurts. I'm very tired. I have been filming so much today. I'm so sorry that the lighting is like ridiculous. I always film in the mornings so that when the sun rises over there and sets over here, and so when it starts to like set over here, the light comes in and I get really dark, as you can tell. So yeah, sorry about the crazy lighting, but I hope you enjoyed this. Sorry about any background noise and stomach growling. My stomach will not stop growling today, no matter